You should have said, you know what, I guess if we ever have a doctor on board, and you're the engineer, I think I'm going to call him Bones. Why? I don't know, I just thought it'd be fun. And then he looks directly at the camera and winks. This is 4.5 Vulcans. This is the episode we've all been waiting for. This was the episode they decided to reveal Season 3 with. The first clip from this season we saw was our characters in this episode, namely Pike, Lan, Uhura, and Chapel becoming Vulcans. In a sense. We've already seen that. It felt like it was forever ago. Maybe it was a year ago. Maybe 2 years. I have no idea. I'm trying not to remember. I'm also trying maybe not to remember this episode, although I had to watch it twice for this review, and this was the most challenging rewatch I've had to do so far this season, to say the least. I owe it to you, and perhaps to myself, to watch these more than one time. I don't believe you can review an episode by watching it once, and then immediately blasting on a review. I had to watch this one, sleep on it, watch it again, meditate on it, try to figure out what its finer points were, try very hard to get it over the finish line. Look, I don't go into these reviews, I don't go into these episodes trying to kill the episode. I'm trying to give it as much as it can possibly handle. As much goodwill as I can inject into it. That's what I do. Okay? You're not going to find me just randomly trying to kill something for no reason. That being an episode. Bad or not, the review is coming, and I'm going to have to deliver something that at least gives you a taste of the good side of something. If you're looking for the bad side of this, I mean, you can find that anywhere, right? Let's be honest. We all knew this was coming. It's like a tornado, right? You can kind of see it in the distance coming. You can see it forming. It's kind of like a machine gun when you turn this episode on. It's just Gatling. It is a constant barrage of things that you have to dodge, bob and weave, parry here and there, and it never stops. I tried to watch, the second time I watched this, I tried to watch it with my reviewer hat on. And there was no way I could satisfactorily review this to any degree without having the episode running right beside me and just pausing it, because there's a rapid fire amount of nonsense here. This episode is an out and out comedy. Okay, look, comedy, as you know, is extremely subjective. If you don't find this episode funny, there's not much else here. Like, you are not getting much else. If you are allergic to milk, you shouldn't drink a glass of milk. Okay? If you're not going to get this comedy, you shouldn't watch this episode. I tried to watch it. I did watch it. And I'll admit, I got 2 minutes in. Like, we didn't even get to the plot yet. We didn't even get to the bit with the Vulcans yet. It was already crazy 2 minutes in. It was crazy before anything happened. I had to stop and take like a 10-minute break at the 2-minute mark. I think at the 7-minute mark, that time is coming back to me for some reason. It was just hard to watch. And at the very end, for the first time in this season, I had my head in my hands. I couldn't look. I was cringing. I couldn't look at the last of this. I'm sorry. You can think totally different. I'm going to try to break this down. Not much is going on here. Plot-wise, it's kind of barren. In fact, when I run you through this plot, give you the basic blow-by-blow, it's going to sound like nothing's really happening, and it's going to sound like I'm skipping a lot. That's because nothing's happening. This episode, the plot, as it were, is seemingly unconnected scenes of interpersonal relationships and romantic things and people talking to each other about, frankly, nothing important, right? You know, as per New Trek, this is self-interested, self-flagellating, looking inward. We're very, very, very interested in ourselves. Actually, I can only assume, having seen this season so far, that the writers of Strange New Worlds are interested in themselves. Right? They're interested in how we feel about each other, how we think, where we're going, where we've been, and not actually going there. Not actually being there. Not actually being at that strange new world. You know? It's right there in the name. You know what else is right there? You know, strange new worlds, new civilizations, going boldly. We've done very little of that. Very, very little. The moment we kind of did, it was kind of okay a few episodes ago. But without any further ado, here is 4.5 Vulcans. And I wish it could get 4.5 out of 10. I'll say that. I'll say that right now. That would be a very good score for this episode if it could manage that. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be blunt, and I'm going to be fair. Most of all, fair. Fair is very important. And we're going to see what's happening here in 4.5 Vulcans. Our crew is supposed to be taking a break on Permanti 3, I believe it's called. Shore leave, essentially. Sounds good. And this is actually, I'll admit, a very visually striking opening scene with these planets in the distance and an asteroid flying by. I'll admit, the ship scenes you get in this episode are good. This episode, it looks good. You know, it doesn't really scratch my itch ship-wise, in a sense, but you do see the Enterprise. There's some episodes where it feels like you don't even see the Enterprise at all, but you're getting it here in what is mostly a bottle ship episode. That is, it takes place entirely on the ship. I don't even know if we go to Permanti, the planet, the shore leave planet that is decidedly not Risa. But we have a message from the Vulcans, something urgent. How many times has this happened in Star Trek? We're going here, emergency message, now we're going this other way, right? And does it ever go well? If we're honest, does that ever go well? No. We have to go to this planet, and I can't remember what it was called. I watched the episode twice and looked up this name, and I still can't remember it. I'm just, it's like my brain is already trying to just diarrhea dump the episode out. I can't, I'm starting to not be able to remember what I just watched. The last few episodes of Star Trek. I can remember little names from 25 years ago. I can't remember this stuff. I just saw it and I'm already forgetting. They have to go to this planet that the Vulcans have, before the Prime Directive, clearly, have already made contact with. And the Vulcans have supplied this planet with what appears to be a nuclear reactor of some sort that powers the entire planet. And they have to go fix it without breaking the Prime Directive, pretending to be Vulcans because they've already made contact with the Vulcans, to fix that reactor, lest it explode and cause a planetary meltdown event. That they said planetary. They said it in the show. So the Vulcans at one point were dumb enough to give this species, the people who are running this planet, a reactor dangerous enough such that it could destroy the planet. And they can't fix it themselves. They've been in space longer than humans. We know better. That's why you don't do that. They didn't know how to fix it. It's like 1 second into this freaking episode. Like, we're not even getting going. We didn't even get on the bus yet of insanity. We didn't even get on the bus to Crazy Town. And there's already so many things going on here. I have to wonder if the average viewer is going to be off put by these things. I have to wonder, because a lot of these complaints, I honestly feel, are not very significant complaints that would come from someone who's really into Star Trek. I like to think of some of these complaints as like, wow, I'm just an average viewer. I wonder if the average viewer is going to think that's very weird. But okay. Weird, but okay. We have to go fix this reactor. Granted, okay, we'll accept it. We have to fix this reactor. To do it, we have to dress up as Vulcans. And Spock says they have scanning technology. They'll be able to tell when we're not Vulcans. So we have to genetically be Vulcans. But Spock is going down. Pop quiz. Pop quiz, dummies. This is for you writers. If they can scan you and figure out that you're not a Vulcan, can they figure out that Spock is only half a Vulcan? And therefore you've broken the Prime Directive and introduced them to another alien species that you're not supposed to? Pop quiz. It's right there. Well, they're going to know. And another thing. These aliens, they're pre-warp. We need to fix their reactor to save their lives. Okay. They only know Vulcans. Is it the end of the world if some humans go down and the Vulcans just say they're Vulcans too? Who are you going to believe? The Vulcans are, it would seem, are much more advanced than these people. Just say that the humans are Vulcans. They're going to say, wow, these are genetically different. Yeah, they're Vulcans too. Why wouldn't they not believe it? I know from your point of view you're breaking the Prime Directive, but they don't know. And isn't that what matters? They're not going to think, they're going to think, oh, it's a Vulcan from a different part of the planet. I don't know. Something like that. Or better yet, say, you know what? These humans, they're humans. They work for us, and, yeah, that's it. You've already broken, they already know about aliens. They know about Vulcans. What's the difference? It's not, we wanted to have a scene where our characters turn into Vulcans, so we wrote this episode like that. Hey guys, you know, I think it'd be funny. Wouldn't it be funny? Yeah, this is how you want things to start in the writer's room. Wouldn't it be funny for Star Trek? That's how it started, I guarantee you. Wouldn't it be funny if? That's how it started. That's what they had on the whiteboard. Wouldn't it be funny if, like, 4 characters turned into Vulcans? Yeah, that'd be funny. Let's do it. And then they came up with the episode. So they had to come up with a reason why they needed to look like Vulcans and had to pass a scanner, but then forgot that Spock is half a Vulcan. Who cares? Whatever. It's fine. You know what? It's fine. We have to go down to the planet. We have to look like Vulcans. We have to be Vulcans. Spock doesn't. That's fine. We give them a reverse-engineered serum that was taken from Spock when he was a human one time, and then they undid it. Kirkovian serum, I think they called it. They give it to these characters. One of them is including Pelia for some reason. She is an engineer. She probably would be helpful on the planet. But evidently they didn't need her expertise. They all turn into Vulcans. They get this right. The emotions are overwhelming. True, it does seem Vulcans have a strong emotional base at the genetic level. That seems canon, yes. They do get that right. They fall to the floor and then get logic just from the serum. I was almost correct. I made that video, my away mission previously. If you don't know what that is, go watch it. Can we get logic for free? Originally it seemed genetically that they were just going to change into Vulcans and therefore be logical. That ended up not being the problem. Yeah, it was a hint they were going in a crazy direction, but it ended up not being the problem because they thought the ADR in a line. That's right, they recorded a line, and I went back and checked, and you don't see Una saying it. It's just playing over some B-roll. And it says that since the serum was engineered from Spock's brain, the serum somehow contains the logic that would normally take years to develop socially for Vulcans. So this is not a Vulcan-changing DNA serum. This is one that turns you into Spock as he is now. So we are giving people logic for free, right? Money for nothing, and logic is free. And it actually is, it is that crazy. You can just, hold on, I can just give you a serum and turn you into a completely different person with different socially constructed themes and ideas in your brain. We can do that? What are the consequences of this? What are the canon consequences of being able to do that? Who knows? I'm glad we don't see it again, but think for a moment what would happen if I could turn you into a different person with a needle and it was permanent. Like, think of the things you could do. Just think. It is so frightening. And they go down to this planet. They fix the reactor, record time, because they're Vulcans. They're so fast and smart at everything. And I will just say this from here on out. They are like they are a caricature of Vulcans. They're kind of a gross caricature of Vulcans. It's kind of creepy. I don't want to get all forensic on you, trying to mind read the writers here. This is kind of like the writers' like sick fantasy about what they think Vulcans are like, because we just proceed to just goof on them, and then we think to goof on Pasalk, a regular Vulcan, like it's kind of weird. It's kind of, they don't just turn into Vulcans; they turn into a caricature of how other people might view Spock. Like, did you want that? Think about what they were thinking. Is that what they wanted? They wanted to, let's have everyone else complain about Spock from their point of view, looking at a caricature of Spock. I just wonder about what the motivation was. Right? I'm just kind of gobsmacked about what they wanted to achieve here. If you find it funny, that's wonderful. And I'll admit there was a few smirks I had, but you had to go through so much chaff to get to it. Our characters finish their mission, get back in time for shore leave, only to have to experience shore leave as Vulcans. So what follows is just a sequence of unrelated scenes of characters talking to, I mean, let's be honest, their girlfriends / boyfriends, what have you. Beto is acting like a Vulcan around Uhura because we find out that Uhura gave him a mind meld. Erica calls it brainwashing. Kind of freaky. There's this whole scenario with Chapel doing experiments because she loves science now. I love science. Okay, anyway, there's let's go down the laundry list. Pike's live-in girlfriend, Battelle, who's just hanging around this entire season for some reason, wants to get back into Starfleet, back into, like, what is it, the Judiciary Committee? I'm not sure exactly what it was. I don't think she's going to be a captain anymore. Very sad, but Pike is preparing the room for a meeting between Battelle and Pasalk. And he's cleaning the room. He's making it too clean because this is canon. Vulcans don't really like the smell of humans. Okay, fine. But it's the way this is played up, the way it's shot, it is completely for comedy. This is comedy shooting. We see Pike squeeze the air out of a bag comically, and the sound is hilarious. Haha, very funny. Pasalk comes for dinner. They're eating. The food looked pretty cool. They're having like a, leek sorbet? It sounds kind of interesting. He talks about how he realized the diabolical nature of salt. I'll admit some of these interactions were kind of fun. Some of the presentation of the food interested me. Battelle proceeds to suggest that Pasalk prefers Pike now because he's become a Vulcan, and now you're best friends. And she says that's illogical. And speaking of illogical, these Vulcans, all throughout this episode, and I could count numerous ways, are acting illogically. First, number one, These characters have become different people. Okay, they are not the same. Pike is not the same captain he was before. You are suggesting to me that we can take Pike, turn him mostly into a different person, and allow them to remain the captain. There's something wrong. If that is not illegal in Starfleet, I don't know what should be. There is something wrong with that. It never sat right with me this whole episode. I kept saying, no, call somebody. Starfleet, tell Starfleet. This is crazy. They're not the same person. Okay? Like, I can think of so many different situations. Like, Pike cannot be, okay, we're going to take the serum. We're going to give Pike logic. And anyone of any intelligence would argue that they're not the same people. If you are now not the same person you were, why are you still the captain? Just because you have their memories? Really? I don't know. There's something about that that's very strange to me, and it's frankly illogical. If they were so logical, wouldn't they just say, I should stand down, I should go to my quarters? No, they're not that logical. They're the funny ha-ha caricature of Vulcans. They're the funny clown Vulcans this episode. Which is fine, and you can be one of those people who says, oh, but they explained it because X, Y, and Z. Look, they wrote in that line, and they explained it, and you didn't watch the episode. Because I watched it, and it says here, here, and here that they're not really like Vulcans, they're blah, blah, blah. But then why did they do it? Why did they want the excuse? Why? Why did they want to make this? Every time something is bad and you look for the excuse why it could be good, you're giving the creators a lot of credit. And it's one of those things that you usually don't see when the episode is just good. When it's just good in general, you don't see that. Learn to recognize the patterns. Learn to recognize the verbiage people use to defend something when it's bad versus when it's generally considered good. Like, I never hear people saying, oh, but they explained it here because of blah, blah, when the episode is just good. And there was a time when episodes were just good and you didn't see people trying to find ways to explain it. There's a huge difference between explaining and, excusing something. Looking for an excuse for why it worked this way. Explaining and excusing are not exactly the same. And I feel like this episode is just it's beyond the pale. And I think that it's obvious that people are just trying to figure out how to explain why they liked it. You're allowed to like it. You're allowed to think it's funny. You don't have to go through every single line and explain it. Right? You don't have to be in the same, pod with people who are just analyzing this as Star Trek. You don't have to be. You can just say, I don't know, it was funny. You don't have to go say, oh, look at this little line they said here. They added in this little line where it said they're allowed to do whatever they want. Right? Remember how they were getting away and then a leprechaun came in and gave them the key to get out of the door? Sounded a little strange, but remember, there was a little line at the very beginning that said leprechauns could appear. That's writing. That's how you write a show. Leprechauns could appear, right? We gave our characters a Vulcan serum to turn them into Vulcans, and because we got it from Spock's brain, it turned them into a weird caricature of Spock. And gave them logic because that would be funny. You just wanted them to be logical Vulcans. That's what you wanted. That's what they wanted. And then they just found the excuse that they needed, created an episode that some people are going to find funny, and that's that. By the way, this explosion from Batel towards Pasalk and Pike doesn't go unnoticed, doesn't go unrewarded, because at the very end of the episode, Pasalk gives her the promotion. Right, you're allowed to suggest that your superior is just racist in favor of Vulcans. You're allowed to suggest that. Could it be that he never got that far in Starfleet without thinking the opposite? Like, I know you're going to think of all the examples of where Vulcans acted like this way or that way, But wouldn't it be nice if you couldn't get that far in Starfleet thinking that? Like, wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be something aspirational? You know? But no, he happens to concur. He's resigning, and that little outburst from Battelle somehow earned her his spot. I don't know. She called them ears. Listen, ears. She banged the table. She suggested that now they're best friends because Pike is a Vulcan, and I don't know. I don't know if you watched the same episode that I watched, but all Pasak did was say that his sorbet is satisfactory. I don't know if that means they're best friends. I don't know. I wasn't really shown this. All I know is that Patel's crazy. Pike's crazy. Everyone's crazy. But they get promoted. Patel does. But the key thrust of the plot here, what's actually happening, is that La'an was not affected by the Vulcan serum in the same way, and she's freaking crazy. More crazy than usual. She's trying to commandeer the ship from the inside, give it weapons, more so than it already has, in order to start a war from nothing. It's like we needed a character to be evil. La'an? Could you be evil? Let's write it that way. And she just was. Later on, they explain it that the Vulcan serum thing treated her different because she is partially augmented, right? From her lineage. The less said about that, the better. That's why she ends up acting kind of foolish and kind of, dangerous. And our characters are all too happy to give her access to whatever she wants until push comes to shove and Scotty booby traps her into pressing a button that just shocks her. She presses the button and gets shocked and falls on the floor after punching James T. Kirk, who was there on vacation on the Enterprise, because wouldn't it be funny if James T. Kirk was there? I don't know why. He's there. He's been on the Enterprise so often now. He's gonna fit right in when he becomes captain. He's gonna fit right in like a glove. That's how they save the day. Truly a comedy plot. Our villain in La'an was trying to start a war somehow out of nowhere, and we just like got her with a joy buzzer. Oops. Later on, we get a moment between Scotty and Kirk where they say, "Hey, you know what? We're gonna make a good team." Tink, with their glasses. We're gonna make a good team. Why don't they just go back in time and accidentally invent the barbecue? And then Kirk will say, "Hey, you know what? This is pretty fun. You know what? I think a few cold beers would go good with this barbecue." And then a car drives by, and they say, "Oh, a car. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a car called a Ferrari? We should invent that." Well, why not? I don't know. You should have said, "You know what? I guess if we ever have a doctor on board, and you're the engineer, I think I'm going to call him Bones." Why? I don't know. I just thought it'd be fun. And then he looks directly at the camera and winks. Get it? Do you get it? How are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to turn our characters back into humans? Guess what? It has something to do with Katra. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure how they fix it. They fix it off screen. They need to talk to Doug. There is a Vulcan called Doug, and you're not gonna believe what I'm gonna say here, but I didn't hate Doug. Doug was all right. Doug is a human aficionado. He was named Doug by his parents, who I assume were also human aficionados, and were taken with the human names. So I guess he inherited this hobby from his parents, maybe. He has a sister called Susan. All very funny. He acts more like a Vulcan than anyone in this episode. Although I will, with the caveat that our human characters, are turned into Vulcans, are not acting as true Vulcans. They're acting as the writer's barely disguised caricature of Vulcans. They need to talk to him, and he is an ex. That's right. In the first 2 minutes of this episode, they're teasing the fact that Una has an ex or an old flame living on Permanti 3 or something, which is why she's hesitant to go. That's the first time I turned this episode off and had to take a break. More romance. Every character is... There's something going on in the romantic front with everybody. I'm wondering what's going to happen to Scotty soon. This character, Doug, he's a master of Catras, and he can, I guess, get our characters' Catras back in order. I don't know how that works, other than what I've seen in Star Trek 3. It beats me. I couldn't even follow what they were talking about. They have a discussion in Pelia's quarters, which, by the way, are blocked off from all the sensors, so you can't see what she's doing, or with who, or with what, or what LSD she's taking. They mentioned LSD in this episode. That's why the serum didn't work on her originally, being a lanthanite. LSD didn't work on me hundreds of years ago, and it didn't work on me last July. Don't take drugs, kids. Don't listen to Star Trek. That stuff is not fun. It's not going to get you anywhere good. Probably. Okay, don't listen to Star Trek, kids. They're saying they're going to make drugs look good sometimes. They're not. There's nothing for you there. There's also nothing for you in this episode, I would venture a guess. She has blocked off her quarters from all sensors somehow. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know. They discuss how to solve this problem. That's where they get the idea to talk to Doug. It's all very spooky and creepy and weird. And I no longer want to be in Pelia's quarters like I wanted to in the Salat Who Ate Its Tail. In fact, I just want to be off the ship. I'm good on a different ship. I don't need to be here anymore. Let's get some smooth sailing. Let's go to some strange new worlds. Imagine what the other ships are doing. If the Enterprise is bogged down in romance, maybe there's another ship like the Farragut or something that is actually going to some cool places. Who knows? I never thought I wanted to be like off the Enterprise, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Imagine making me not want to be on the Enterprise. We do cooler stuff on this ship, on the Dingwall, to be frank. We have to go discuss this with Doug, and Una has Spock in tow to kind of be her wingman, as it were, or wing half Vulcan. Have you ever been in love? Can you tell me what it's like to be in love with someone and then not want to be in love with someone so that you break up even though you're still in love with them? Every single signal here in this episode is telling me they should be together. They love each other. What is the problem? Is there some miscommunication? How much new Trek writer life do I have to live for this to make sense? Right? How connected, how networked in to their system do I have to be for this to make sense? Why are they? What is the problem? They can't just ask him. They have to play it up for comedy. Just ask this person. At the beginning of the episode, Leanne and Una are talking, and they have to make up an excuse for why Spock shouldn't sit with them. Why? They're discussing something private. Just say, sorry, Spock, we're talking about something private. Okay, goodbye. Why do they have to invent something about a debrief? Why? Just tell the truth. Anyway, we cut directly to our characters being healed. And we got their catchers in orders. I don't know what Doug did. It happened off screen. It wasn't funny, sure they didn't put it in the episode. Maybe that's good. You saved me the trouble. We couldn't fix Leanne. There's a problem with her Catra, I guess. I don't know. I'm not sure. Leanne is the villain this episode. Is someone doing a mind meld? How did they... If they were unwilling, how did they force the mind meld on them? Did anyone ask that? What is the exact process mechanically behind fixing their Catra? And how did these characters who admitted verbally that they wanted to remain Vulcan How did we force it on them? How did we force it on them? What did we do? Trap them? Did we stun them? I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know if they said. It really just felt like they just cut and said, there you go, they're fixed. Except for Leanne. Spock does it himself. I don't know if he's mind melding, but they're in some kind of ethereal dimension. It looks like they're in Cetacean Ops, but they're not. They're in the science room, as it were. And they fight, and then they dance, and then they fight, and then it turns into another dance, and they thought this was so cool. And I thought it was so cringe. And I looked away. This was the time in this episode where I looked away. I hid my face. I was like, oh no. I couldn't look at this happening. It was so gross and weird. We're looking at two characters fighting that turns into a romantic dance inside someone's mind because they were turned into a Vulcan that had logic by a serum. And for some reason they were diabolical about it. That's what happened. That's the plot. We save Leanne, and then everything's hunky-dory, but we get a credit sequence that happens after the credits that I was ready to turn it off, but no, I looked down and said, whoa, there's another 5 to 10 minutes in this piece? Whoa! So I watched it. I ventured to watch it for a unique scene between Spock and Doug, where Spock is trying to teach Doug some human things, like high five, on the flip side, down low. We have parties with cakes and gifts. And it feels not written. It feels like that was the writers and the people on set laughing like crazy, laughing maniacally as Spock and Doug just kind of riffed on each other's dialogue and kind of ad-libbed it. It felt like they were doing it on their own, off script, on a tangent, and they thought it was really, really, really funny. I smirked. I got a little smirk. Like I said, I don't hate Doug. And then Doug is so shocked by what has happened, by the fact that he's used a contraction, like it is, to say it's or something like that, that he walks away in bewilderment. And then we see a camera angle of Spock smiling like this towards like somebody off screen, so it's not really directly at the camera, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was smiling directly at the camera, given how meta and weird and comedic and odd this episode was. It's just odd. It's odd. That was 4.5 Vulcans. And, the saving grace here is that you don't have to watch it. It's not like the episode Hide and Seek or Stardust City Rag from Picard or numerous episodes from Discovery, where they're so bad, but you have to watch it because they're trying to get into a streaming trap to keep you subscribed so that you have to see the plot unfold over 10 episodes. This is purely episodic. Thank you. That's a good thing. You can skip it. It means something when you can skip a bad episode. You could always do that in Star Trek, but in the modern era, all the episodes are connected and they make that difficult. But this, thankfully, is skippable. It's the hidden benefits of being episodic. Of course, having a 10-episode season means you're very, very lopsided if every single episode is experimental. Very weird. Musically, I thought it was good. There was actually, the music, I don't know if it's because they thought it was a comedy, the music is higher in the mix. It's more alive. It's more active. It's more thumping. The music melodically is more interesting, and it plays more throughout this episode. It was very TOS, and it was on point for what they were trying to achieve here. Musically, this was actually good. It's one of the few good things about this episode. Visually, like I said, there's some interesting lighting here and there. There's some interesting scenes, the way they're set up. The shots of the ship look good. It's not great. It'll just get you by visually, but it's not horrible. I've seen a lot worse, certainly from this season, visually. Plot, there's no plot. It's just scenes of people talking to each other about nothing significant, nothing important, nothing thought-provoking, nothing philosophically interesting, nothing deep. It is shallow. We are discussing ourselves. The stupidest thing to discuss. Yourself. Thematically, I had to meditate on this. I need to really concentrate to think about what this was about. Our characters turn into different people, and then they are different people. Big whoop. That's what happens. Oh no, I became a different person. And I did and said some stupid things when I was a different person. Yeah, I bet. What if these characters are not true Vulcans? Then what were we saying about Vulcans? What were when we just kind of dunked on them for the entire episode? What are we saying? I don't know. I can't figure it out. If you know what this is thematically trying to say, you tell me, because I couldn't figure it out. So we're getting a 0 on plot, 0 on theme. We're getting a good score on music, and an okay score, a passable score visually. That does not a good episode make. I'm sorry to think about it objectively. And you've seen my complaints thus far that have been largely subjective. But when I'm delivering the objective score here, I'm going to have to go with an unfortunate, this is the best I can do, a 2.5 out of 10. That's the best I can give it. I can't do any more. I smirked a little bit. If you thought this was funny, that's wonderful. Because you're going to get a lot here if you really think this is funny. It just makes me really question what this franchise is. What is this season? What is this genre? Why are we so obsessed with romance in this season? I think these people, I think they didn't have a lot of oversight when they came up with this season. I think there was somebody at the helm here, not naming any names, could be Pinhead. It could be Pinhead himself. I don't know. We're not capable or willing to shut the stuff down that is not funny or interesting or good or provoking of any thought. Frankly, this is the worst episode so far this season, but it is not the worst episode of the modern era of New Trek I've ever seen, not by a long shot. I've seen all of Picard, and I've seen all of the early Discovery stuff, believe me. This episode is skippable. Hidden benefit to these things being episodic. It is baffling, it is confusing, and above all else, above everything I've just said, when our characters turn Vulcan, they instantly change their hair. How did that how did they just fall down on the ground and wake up with different hair? That takes time. And a few moments later, they switch into Vulcan outfits. Hey guys, I got an idea. Change their hair when they change their outfits. So when they walk out in their new outfits, they have the new hair. Put me on the team. I figured it out. I figured out how to do your scene. I figured out how to do the better screenplay. I did it, guys. I did it. Put me on the team, coach. I'm ready to go. And when they walk out in their new Vulcan attire and their new haircuts that they just gave for themselves in under 1 second, there is non-diegetic music playing. The final kick to my groin. It tonally clashes with the rest of this episode because it was not funny. It was not funny music. It is non-diegetic. Why is it there? I don't understand. Yeah, that's 4.5 Vulcans. Oh yeah, I'm Lieutenant Merrick. see you at some point. Whatever. Goodbye.